Well, it gives me a real pleasure this morning to welcome four times Italian under-21 champion, three times senior champion in Italy, Edinburgh Monarch skipper, and also Landshut Devils rider to our chat this morning. So it's a huge welcome to Paco Castagna, surely one of the most biggest characters in the sport at the moment. So how are you doing, Paco?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's beautiful. Of course I'm very happy. I've always try to give time to these sort of things because it's what fans like, and it gets them to know you a little bit better. So it's always something good to do, and I'm very happy to do that. So all good. I'm back in Italy in nice and warm weather, Italy. So no, I'm
Well,
well happy.
actually, it's quite warm in Scotland at the moment as well this week, so we're maybe having a lucky week this week. So anyway, I want to ask a few questions, and the first one I'm going to start with is maybe I know you're one of the biggest characters in the sport, and so I'm going to ask you what life was like just when you were a little boy, because I'm wondering if you were a bit of a terror when you were a wee boy, because I've got some information here that suggests when you were maybe 4 or 5 years old, you created a bit of chaos in the pits in Reading. Can you remember anything about that?
So there's not so much that I can remember about Reading, but there are a couple of things, and obviously one of them is of course people who was a Reading or were Reading fans obviously knew about Dougie. So he was the track man, and also my father's mechanic for many years, and we used to stay with him back in the day. So I remember the track, I remember the pits, I remember some of it, and yeah, they always tell me I was a bit of a terror in the pits because I was always like I wanted to touch the throttle on the bike or sit on the bike, and that was my thing to do. So nice memories, and I wish, and to be honest, I wish I had a couple of more because I always heard it was a fantastic place to go, Reading.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was Tim Sugar who asked that question to me. He mentioned that maybe you knocked your dad's bike over, and he was furious, but you weren't in the slightest bit bothered.
Most probably that's the thing that used to happen. I used to do it in the workshop as well. That's what normally would have happened in the pits and in the workshop.
Yeah. So going back to your life as a child, I mean, what was it like growing up as the son of, a really famous Italian speedway rider? And did you spend lots of time traveling around Europe with your dad as a young lad?
Yeah, surely life wasn't very easy as a child. So I still feel, how can I say, like I'm always everybody knows I'm very positive, so I always look at the brighter side instead of the other one. So I would say that looking at that way, I've always been blessed by the fact that I could go around the world in ages where other people couldn't, and so as you can imagine, I was born in 1994, so that was just after my father's absolute peak
Mhm.
of speedway career. So it was in his peak. He was racing all over the world, and my first flight was when I was 8 months old when I went to Argentina. So
Yeah.
it's started off quite early. Surely wasn't easy because we are not the most common family you can find around. Obviously, my father always around, and my mom was working at the time, and then had to stop work to look after me as well. So it was a beautiful childhood. I was very lucky also to be brought up in where I live here, where with all my cousins around. So I
Mhm.
always had my cousins to play with, and my uncles. So now it was beautiful. Surely it's been tough, but now that I'm doing that myself as racing
Mhm.
professionally, I fully understand what my father was doing back in the day, and full respect to that because it's not easy at all.
Absolutely. And how old were you when you first took your first steps on a speedway bike, and where were these first rides that you took?
Well, to be honest, in this case, I've always been proud to be Italian and everything, but on this side, I wish I was Scandinavian because they can start on 80s cc's or on the
Of course.
peewees, and I couldn't do that. So in Italy, the rules for safety don't allow you to start riding a speedy bike until you're 14.
Okay.
So my first ride was when I was 14. So I lost for easy 7 or 8 years where I could jump on the Pee-wees or on the 85cc's and then on the 125s, you know. So I'm a late starter, but I pushed hard in the first couple of years. So yeah, my first year was at 14 and I had a big crash and I didn't touch the speedy bike for a year.
Okay.
So really, I started off maybe when I was about 15. Yeah, I would say.
Okay, so for those of who are listening who don't really know much about Speedway in Italy, I mean, can you describe what the setup's like? You know, how many tracks are in Italy, particularly Lonigo, I'm thinking about. What's the size of the track? What kind of crowds do they get in Italy?
Yeah, Italy's been fantastic in the 90s. We had like easy 15 tracks back in the 90s when speed was like going big and there was a lot of crowd and it was a big thing. Then obviously when it started going down because of noise, like everywhere, noise and houses and problems like this. And at the moment we've got only 2 tracks, which are Lonigo and Terenzano. Terenzano is my home club, even though it's the furthest away. But it's my home track, and we got these 2 tracks. There's another one on the walks, but it's still early, so we'll see how that goes. Lonigo and Terenzano are both big tracks, like 350 meters. They're very big, so they're no English tracks. Like beautiful stadiums, absolutely beautiful stadiums. They host GPs, big meetings, World Championship, European Championship meetings. So they're nice stadiums, but the crowds in Lonigo are quite good because it's always known as the, how can you say, like the Mugello of MotoGP in Italy. While Terenzano is a little bit out of the, it's like a bit of countryside, but it's got beautiful stadium, beautiful track. It's one of my favorite tracks to ride. Absolutely fantastic riding there. And so I've started off in Lonigo when I was 15 with the 125s, and then kept riding them 2 tracks and just pushed through the hard yards of not being known apart from being my father's son, really. And I really started doing only 6 or 7 meetings a year. So my first 5 years were like, I've done the amount of meetings that most people in the UK do in 1 year.
Okay, and at that time when you were just starting out, were there a lot of other young Italian riders that you were racing against, or was it mostly older guys that you were racing against?
So I've grown up. My first years, the actual speedway scene was actually quite good. Like in Italy, we had 5 or 6 riders which are actually good. You know, some of them were racing in the UK. We had the Covatti, we had the Carpanese, Andrea Maida, Franchetti. We had like some very good riders. So to come through the young part of my career was quite hard. We had, I think, so because we don't have many riders, we can't do a separate meeting for the under 21s. It still is like this. So we get the under 21 championship out of the senior one. So I used to race in the senior group since I was 18 and get the under 21 championship out of that. We used to be like 4 or 5 riders in the under 21s. And one of them, which I always fought hard with, was Vicentin, which everybody saw him at the Speedway of Nations. So we are the same age. So it was always me against him, up to the last meeting to get that championship. And he was always very, very good as well. Very big, talented guy. You know, very talented on the speedway bike. And then, I think I always had a little bit of an edge on him and won a little bit of a championship.
And as you were kind of growing up, these kind of late teenage years, I mean, who were your big, heroes in the speedway world at that time?
Obviously, having the luck of having my father racing still when I was young, I had the chance to see him racing, and obviously I tried to learn as much as I could from him. I was a mechanic for him for the last couple of years because I was like 14, trying to understand. Always been on the bike side, so I knew what I was doing. So it was I cannot express the feelings of being in the pits for my father and see him win meetings, even if it was like Italian championship meetings or local meetings. Still, seeing my father win was different. So it was him. And then I always had I had the luck, obviously, of having guys like Crampy, Greg Hancock, Scott Nichols coming here when it was the GPs in Lonigo. They used to stay at the hotel, so I used to have them here in the workshop, walking the bikes and see them. Lee Richardson, Steve Johnston, Billy Hamill, Joe Screen. They all used to stay here.
Okay.
So it was beautiful. I had them as guys I used to look at. Apart from when I studied Speedway, I have to look at my size guys racing Speedway. So when I was studying, when I was 15, 16, I used to study Speedway, and I used to look always at mainly 4 riders, which were my dad, Simon Wigg, Per Jonsson, and Hans Nielsen. Those 4 guys were the guys I used to look at.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So, and then when you eventually, looking at your racing career, so first of all, you came to the UK in 2015 to race for, feels like ages ago now. Sheffield. Can you talk us through the clubs that you've raced for in the UK and just tell us a little bit about each club and your time at each club and maybe what you liked?
It's funny because I feel like my career had 3 main steps. So my young part of my career, I was very good. I felt I was very, very good. In the under 21s, I was very, very close on qualifying for the finals many times. And I didn't have the equipment to do it, unfortunately, because money wise, first of all, under 21s, it's difficult. It was difficult for guys like us from Italy, Finland, France, Slovenia to go in a period where in the under 21s we had let's say a qualifying round in Lonigo. There was, I still remember this, is crazy when I tell you the names and you think about them. I had Smarslik, Dudek, both Pavlitsky brothers, Mikkel Mikkelsen, Mikkel Beck, which back then was Henriot, Nikolai Jakobsen, Dimitri Berger, Belego, Huckenbeck. These were the guys, Sam Masters, Richie Worrell. I had these guys racing against me in the under 21s, which were already racing full-time, Extra Liga, UK, everywhere. And I was doing Italian Championship once a month. That was my only meetings. So we couldn't find money through sponsors to pay for the equipment. I used to burn clutches on the under 21 stages, World Championship. I couldn't qualify. Like, I still remember this. So, but I had the talent on the bike. So then I pushed hard and as hard as I could to keep going. I never stopped. I had a couple of injuries, but I kept going. And until I had a couple of good meetings, and Sheffield wanted me through, of course, my uncle, I call him Uncle, Steve Johnston, and the Bates family. They signed me for Sheffield for, I think it was the end of the season. I think I did 6 meetings, which were enough to give me an average. Back then in 2015, and I still was on my Jawas, and I think that back then in the UK, in 2015 when I went to the UK, I think there were only 2 riders using Jawas. It was me and the Bier brothers, and Ben Barker. Sorry, so basically 3 or 4 riders. And of course, you went to Sheffield, and Simon Stead was racing, and guys like this, a little bit difficult. And then so I did 6 meetings. I think I done okay, but nothing major. I was scoring like 4, 5, 6 points, which, to be fair, as a starter, was not too bad. But they didn't want me back for the next year, and Ipswich came through. In 2016, signed for Ipswich. They I think I had an okay start, but Ipswich is that club that want to win, and they have a big fan base, so the fans are very vocal. Back then we were not winning. It was I still remember that year I got sacked on the 4th or 3rd of July. I got sacked from Ipswich after I was doing my job as a reserve, I feel, but they expected a bit more, I think. Maybe because, again, they wanted to win, and they sacked at the same time 3 riders, and a couple of weeks after, another 2 riders they got sacked. So they changed the whole team. And the week after, I went to a meeting and I said, I'm going to show everybody plus Chris Lewis that I'm going to be good enough. And I got injured because I went into the meeting, wanted to show, and I completely destroyed my my ankle. So I was out for a bit and came back, and the couple of years after were very hard because I wanted to get back to England until 2019, where Birmingham offered me a place. And I did a couple of years at Birmingham where I really, it's not that I enjoyed it because there were troubles, I don't know if you can remember, there were troubles with the management, money-wise. It was very, very difficult, very difficult. But all I cared was racing and scoring. And I think I had a good period. I was a reserve, then went up to, to different numbers, and I was doing good. And then after Birmingham, 2019, 20 was COVID, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
21 went back to Birmingham. And then 22, I had the call from after score. I think I went there with Birmingham. I scored 12 points at Edinburgh. And then I think Alex Arquez said to me, I said, well done, kid. You've done very well. We might keep in touch during the winter. And I was going to Argentina, and John Campbell gave me a call. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And that's when my Scottish career started.
And the interesting thing is, I've talked about this with lots of friends of mine, is that many riders who have ridden at Edinburgh have actually had probably the best times of their career there for various reasons. I've been an Edinburgh fan since 1977, and many riders have come through and had really great, strong periods with Edinburgh, and then moved on somewhere else and maybe not done so well. And I don't know what the reasons for that are, but I mean, it's great that obviously you're now with Edinburgh, and obviously you're skipper there now, and you've added a level of consistency that maybe wasn't there so much before, and probably you're enjoying your riding more, perhaps, I would suggest. Do you think there's any specific reasons for that?
It's funny. With my experience in the British Speedway, so I've always been a guy, because I've grown up with looking up at riders where they did good at many clubs, but they were trying always to stay at the same club. Like, look at my dad at Reading, and make an example. I always look at other sports, and I always appreciate players or riders or sportsmen that stay with one club. I always love that. It's something that I always thought about and I really liked. So when I started with Birmingham, I thought this can be a good thing. And then obviously the management problems started, and then I always looked up at Edinburgh or these clubs, like them clubs, like family members, always the same people running,
stable environment,
stable, yes, and also, we race also for money, not only for pride, and so you have to look also at the money side. And I always only heard good things about Edinburgh. They're always paying week by week. There can be a couple of weeks where they're late, but like, these are important things for a speedway rider.
Absolutely.
So once I started, I had a very good season in 22 at home mainly. Away I was struggling. The second year I was struggling at home but doing good away. This year I mixed it.
Yeah.
And I can say that part of it is just having that same environment. There is a group of mechanics helping each other. There's a group of people supporting. There is support from the fans. The club are pushing hard to stay in the playoffs or go into the playoffs, and then obviously playoff, anything can happen. So you want a winning environment, and that's something that's very, very helpful. So I think that's part of it, apart from a personal will to win.
Yeah, and I think it's obvious also that being skipper is helping you maybe to bring on some of the other riders. So I'm thinking particularly about Lasse Fredriksen, and that must be really satisfying for you too as skipper.
It's funny. We had a call with John and Alec this winter. John called me, and they asked me to be a skipper, and I'm like, wow, Josh is gonna be back, and I like. he should be probably the captain, but they wanted some not the number one to be captain. They wanted to take that weight off him and give me a little bit more responsibility, which I think, to be honest, it was a good move because obviously, well, results are speaking for themselves. But I'm really that guy. I'm that guy that in the pits I rather let my mechanics do the work and go talk to the riders. And so far, riders are happy. They're talking good about that, and that makes me well pleased about. Like I'm very pleased about what I'm doing, and it gives me also responsibility on
Absolutely.
track to
Absolutely.
score the points.
Yeah.
Because it's not only I come to you and say, mate, we need to step up. This happened also at Berwick last week. Me and Lasse had a bad start of the meeting in the first heat. The track was difficult. And I went there and I said, mate, me and you, we have to step up. Same with Kai. Me, Kai, and Lasse have a very good group. Sage is very good. Paco is the number one where we need him to like go out and score the points, and he's part of the shouting. and then we have the reserves which are doing their thing. So I'm very pleased about my role, and I feel like I'm doing a good job.
Absolutely,
and I love it.
I agree. Yeah, and I think well done is what I would say.
Thanks.
For that role this year.
It's difficult. Believe me, it's difficult.
but it's great. Yeah, and obviously there'll be good times and there'll be bad times, but I'm sure you'll look back on it with a lot of satisfaction. Yeah. And then, so you've also raced in Denmark in 2021. How did that compare to your UK experiences?
Denmark was there was a bit more pressure. Brovst was a track that I actually got in because of my friend, as well as back then in my teammate Tobias Thompson. Yeah, it was good. I had the help from Tobias to get the bikes over and keep it at his place, so that was a bit easier for me. It was thanks to him. Denmark is good. They've got good tracks. It's a very tough league. Yeah. I went there and I think I've done good enough to get a call back, and then I think I had a bit of bad luck. Like I went to Grinstead and I think I scored 9 points. I went to a home meeting and I think I scored 8. So I was doing my job, which when my average was like, I think it was a 4 because I was a C rider. And I think I've done good, but then I think the club went into a bankruptcy.
Yeah, and they've disappeared. Yeah.
And then I had my bikes there, and I'm like, well, surely I'm gonna get a call, and nobody called me. So I ended up taking my bikes over back here and take them to England and concentrate on the UK. Now I can say that again, Scandinavia, they've got good leagues. Denmark and Sweden are very good leagues. It's just difficult to get there.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, from Italy plus, you know.
You mean the travel?
Logistics, it's difficult. It's either
absolutely.
You send them 2 bikes over. You need to have a whole setup. You need to have it's like having a whole setup like for Poland. You have to have a van, you have to have a workshop, a mechanic. 2 bikes. Or people do it from Poland.
Yeah.
But I don't have a setup in Poland.
Yeah.
So I have my setup here where I've got the bikes here, which I'm gonna use for Poland. I'm gonna use for World Championship meetings. But I'm in Italy, and to go to Sweden last year to Gislaved for the GP Challenge was a 26 hours drive. I'm talking like, you know what I mean? It's a bit difficult to do it weekly.
Of course. So, but moving on, I mean, I'm now into Poland. So you've made this breakthrough and you've got into Krajowa Liga, albeit through the German connection at Landshut. But I would suggest, you've made a brilliant start there. I've been watching really carefully your scores there. So that might open doors for you, as we move forward as well. So what's it like racing in the Polish League, albeit in Germany, and at the Landshut track?
So that came about last year, where I was interested in signing for them. So starting from the point, I've always given time to British Speedway, my full effort to British Speedway, but I always felt that in Europe I was doing a lot better in European tracks compared to the UK. UK has always been a learning curve for me, while European tracks have always been a little bit better. So I've always had my focus on Poland because I know I can be good there because of the tracks and because of my riding style. But no call ever came. The only call I had was from Rawic the year they went bankrupt, probably last year, and we didn't get to agreement for a contract, and that fell. And then I said to Landshut, I said, listen, I'm keen, and I'm good enough. Believe me. And they were like, yeah, we're gonna go. We were very close, and then they went with Antonio, obviously, for this year, until the Antonio thing fell through, and they gave me a call, and I'm like, well, this is my time finally, because I've been waiting for 3 years to get a call.
Yeah.
And I know I can be good enough. And Landshut is funny because it's always a track I've been struggling at.
Okay.
Even though it's a European track, it's always been a track. But I'm like, I have to get this. I have to go there and show. And the first meeting, I scored 21 points in 2 meetings.
Yeah.
And it's a good debut for Polish League.
Absolutely.
I know it's only 2 home matches, but I've never been to Landshut. I only did two meetings ever at Landshut, so it's not like my home track.
Yeah.
So it was good. I was very, very proud of myself because it was a difficult start. I had to go there, get the equipment ready to go there, and I really hope this is a starting point for next year.
I mean, I can see it will be. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks. Because also I see British Speedway. It's a closed circle. Polish Speedway is a closed circle. Swedish Speedway is a closed circle, and they only care about what you're doing there, what you're doing in the UK. UK, they only care about what you're doing in the UK. Yeah. Poland, they only care about what you do in Poland. So if you're not there, you cannot show them. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to break through and get into the Polish leagues or the British leagues. Look at what's happening in the Premiership.
Absolutely.
Like it's the same. It's always the same people going around. Never it's new guys. So it was difficult for me to get into that league. And then once I got it, I'm like, now it's my time. I'm gonna show you. So I went there, 10 points the first meeting, 11 in the second one, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm ready for it.
Definitely. Couldn't really be a better start. Hopefully that continues. And then just kind of going on from there, I mean, you had this great display at Lonigo at the end of May, and you've qualified for the SGP Challenge in Pardubice in October. So, I mean, imagine that, five rides away from being potentially a GP rider. I mean, looking ahead,
I've got goosebumps, mate. I've got goosebumps.
I mean, looking ahead to Pardubice, is that a track you've ridden before, and if so, do you like it?
I've been there many times, but it's always been a day meeting. So I've always been to a Golden Helmet.
Okay.
I've always been to meetings there, which were like open meetings, but I think I've done like 5 or 6 meetings there so far, but it's always been daylight meetings. So that's already going to be a change because the challenge is going to be on the Friday night.
Yeah.
So the track obviously is going to be different. So I cannot go there with the same mindset as Pardubice, normal Pardubice mindset.
Yeah.
So starting from the first part of the question, yes, it was fantastic. Lonigo, I've heard many comments. I've heard many bad things, one track wonder and all that, but to do it 2 years in a row is not a coincidence.
Absolutely.
Against even a tougher opposition this year.
Yeah.
Because this year we had 4 GP riders in the lineup.
Absolutely.
I mean, I looked at the lineup this year and I'm like, shit, like this is like 11 riders can qualify in the top 4.
Yeah.
So it is tough. Yeah. And I'm very proud because it's one of the meetings where when you write down the calendar at the start of the year, you always put like a yellow dot next to it because it's that meeting, Yeah. So virtually you can say that I'm in the top 30 in the world, even if anybody can say what they want, leagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's only one thing that matters, and it's World Championship.
That's it.
That's
absolutely.
all everybody care of. It's World Championship. So to be back there again at the Speedy Challenge for me, it's a huge pride, and I feel like this time I deserve it even more because I fought for it even more. And Pardubice is one of them tracks where it's so tough.
Yeah,
so tough because it's big.
A wide track for a start.
and you have to have good equipment that will be crucial.
Yeah.
So I'm spending a lot of money and time this year on equipment. I'm testing a lot. I was very happy about my performance in the Speedway of Nations. We'll go for it later, maybe, but because it's another difficult, big, wide track, and I've done good there. So that gives me hope also for Pardubice. And I'm not going there with any pressure. You know, I think I'm gonna do like the meeting as another meeting. It's gonna be like an Edinburgh meeting, or like no pressure. I'm just gonna go there to show what I can do. If I can get a top 10, is perfect. If I qualify, fantastic. If I don't qualify, good enough. Anyway, I'm there. I'm with the best guys in the world fighting.
As you say, second year running at the GP Challenge. Yeah. So
last year was tough also because it was my third meeting back from I can't say fucked shoulder, but like it was pretty bad. Like I completely destroyed my shoulder, and it was tough. I couldn't really ride the bike, and I just still wanted to be there just for the fact because I deserved it and I wanted to be there. Yeah. But this year I hope it's going to be different. I really feel confident on the bike this year. So.
And that came through. You just mentioned the Speedway of Nations, and obviously riding for your country is a massive thing. And you had a really tremendous display. I was actually on holiday in Finland that week with my wife, but I was watching every meeting, and it was just amazing to watch you there. So, so how did it feel, you know, taking part there?
It's you know, when you ride for your country, it's always different. I know it's a cliche thing. Everybody say it, but it is true. Like. For me, it's different because we are a smaller nation. I know it's not seen because everybody care about what they look at, but I'm pushing very, very hard on social media, newspapers, videos, pictures, meetings here to push Italian Speedway through. I've got like Italian Speedway on my shoulders and trying to push it through, get more people to watch Speedway because. It is important, and meetings like this, it's overweight because of what I just said. So I went there with a little bit of weight on my shoulders, also because obviously Nico was just coming back from injury. We didn't know he was still injured, but he was like, I'm gonna give it a go, and I really felt we could get through to the race off of the Manchester meeting, and then obviously the race off, anything can happen. Like look at Czech Republic.
Absolutely.
Like, you never know. You can find yourself in the final without even like in a blink of an eye. So I really wanted to get there.
You know, in many ways, I know this is well, I mean, you could almost make the comparison if you go back to the years when Golob was kind of had the responsibility of Poland on his shoulders for years. In some ways, it's similar to that. You know, you're kind of leading Italy in a way and trying to take them forward. You know,
a lot in a lot smaller world, but I feel like I've got like Italian eyes on me about results and everything. And I hope I made them proud by doing, you know, them 17 points.
Absolutely.
It was a fantastic meeting. I really felt sharp. I had a couple of bike issues that I could have done a couple of points more, you know, that heat with Antti, maybe I could have beat him. That heat with Belego, could have beat him a couple of points more. But again, I've done 17 points of the 21 of the team. Absolutely. I think I've done enough, and that's good. You know, I have to look at the positive side. It was one of the goals of the season. You know, I had a list of goals, and one of them was to go to Manchester, where in 2018 I had a shocker of a meeting at the Speedway of Nations. So I wanted to go back and beat the track.
Well, you did.
and score well, which is something I've done with Landshut as well. So I had this in my mindset.
You can tick that one off as a major success. Yeah, definitely. So now a couple of questions about sponsors. I mean, you've mentioned a few times how, you know, obviously it's difficult getting your equipment to a good level, and obviously sponsors are a crucial part of the sport. What does it mean to be part of the 3PL sponsorship kind of group? I mean, I look around and I've been more aware this year, and I see 3PL being mentioned, you know, it's all over the place. Just last weekend, I was in Poland, and I went for the morning to Stan Burza's workshop, and he had some bikes in his workshop, and here on one of the bikes was the 3PL logo, and you know, it just seems to be everywhere. So what's it what does it mean to be part of that sponsorship, and how has Paul Christensen had an impact for you in your career?
Well, first of all, fair play to Paul, because he's pushing very hard. He's making part of, I think the way I see it is he's making part of his passion also part of his business, which is something that I think everybody dreams of, because you want to make your passion part of your work. So fair play to him. He's doing a fantastic job in Speedway, and it's funny because it came about only through. So first of all, I'm pushing very hard myself with my sponsors, trying to give any type of advertisement I can. It's something that I'm dedicating a lot of time, and it seems like not people don't see it, but it takes so much time. Bike designs, where to put sponsors, pictures, social media, everything is draining. So once I think it was end of last year, I'm like, I always look at the good things and good people doing good stuff for the sport. So I went to Paul and I said, listen, fair play to you, because you are doing very well, and I wish you all the best. I didn't even ask for a sponsorship. I just said, fair play, because you're doing very well. And this opportunity came around like that to work with him. And yeah, of course, this year is only the start of I hope a long journey with him. He's been a huge help this year, and I hope we can build something bigger for next year. I really want to push through this sport and go to the top, even though I don't have the cards. If I look at my cards, I don't look like one of them, but I really wanna push. I never stopped believing one moment that I can. I think I've already done more than what I should have, but I still want to push more, and guys like Paul make it possible. So I hope I can do a lot more. Actually, I can. Actually, got it here. I had it here.
There it is, yeah. Brilliant. So, I mean, when you're not racing, how do you relax? I mean, I watched a really fantastic interview that you did with 11 Sports presenter Anita Mazur a few months ago when she visited you in Lonigo, and she was asking you about your cooking. So, I mean, is that one of your major kind of passions away from the sport?
I used to do it I still do it sometimes for work, but it's not one of my passions. But I like cooking a nice steak on the grill. That's something that makes me, it makes me happy, spending some time with friends. But it was this year, it was one of the most important things to try to spend my extra time out of Speedway resting, because just a background look that people might not know. I don't have a professional team. I don't have mechanics. I don't have any of that. I'm still doing everything myself. So sometimes you will see stories I put on Instagram at 2:00 in the morning on a Friday night after Edinburgh, washing my own bike and getting it ready, because the next day I need to fly to Poland or to Italy. So this is something I've done since I started Speedway.
Okay.
And this is also because of logistics. Money is difficult to get organized and pay for a full-time guy. So I'm still doing that. So the first thing you take off you is sleep. So this year I've tried to concentrate on spending time sleeping and trying to rest, and that's something that really helped. And then on the off time, I try to dedicate time to my girlfriend, which is not very happy about me racing all over the world and not being home. But truly, honestly, like I didn't have much time off, but I've got a good bunch of people around me, which I try to dedicate time to and just try to relax. I didn't have a holiday for the last 3 years, so I hope I can have 3 days off this year, hopefully in a couple of weeks, where I can actually see some sun and because living in Scotland is not easy,
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. My friend and I, we've been to Poland 3 or 4 times this year, and we wonder how on earth you guys do it. This flying in and out week after week, because we're absolutely exhausted after one weekend, and you're doing it for 6 months.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah,
I wish I had the. This is something that I hope, with the help of Paul, for example, I can build for next year. I'm really looking at the organization side of it. I hope that next year I can get that stepping stone of having a full-time mechanic for the first time in 13 years of racing. Because the problem is that being in Italy, it was very difficult to find the sponsorship.
Yeah.
Money-wise, I've got lots of sponsors. Everybody say, "Oh, you got lots of sponsors." Yes, but I get materials, I get chains, I get throttles. I don't get money. Like in Denmark, I see there are a lot of riders sponsored, or in Poland, they get sponsored money, and it is a lot easier when you do that.
Yeah.
So if I can get to that stepping stone, that will allow me to do a lot better in my racing, as well as more racing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
So one kind of final question. I mean, do you enjoy being a part of the continental European
yeah.
group?
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I know there are quite a number of your family members who are, or of your family that are members, and you've been a member for 2 or 3 years already. So
yeah. As I always said, anybody that does any work to help Speedway grow and be shown and be talked about, also in a positive way, deserves credit. So fair play to you guys. Like I always said, if we can help make the sport grow, we have to help each other. So fair play, and it's a fantastic group. I wish I had more time to look at it, because to be fair,
I kind of understand.
I wish I had more time, but when I have that day off, I try to look at meetings. I used to be sitting every day watching at Speedway when I had the time. I don't even have time to watch my own racing. So, fair play to you guys, and I hope you keep doing it.
Thank you so much. Well, I mean, I just want to kind of finish off by saying thank you so much for giving us some time today, Paco, out of your busy schedule, and best of luck for the rest of the season, mate. And of course, I look forward very much to seeing you doing well in Pardubice in October. So thank you so much for giving us some time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, I've always got time for this. So whenever you want to do something like this, I've always got time. And hope it goes good. And I hope after Pardubice we can have another talk, maybe during the winter, and talk about different ways, because I had a good meeting there, and and then see what happens next year. But thanks again. Hope you have a good week and the rest of the season.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. Cheers.
Thanks. See you later.